The shelter was always noisy, barking, whining, the chatter of visitors searching for the perfect dog. Families came in every day, pointing excitedly at the puppies, admiring the young, energetic dogs. No one ever stopped at the last kennel in the dimly lit corner of the shelter. No one noticed the old German shepherd curled up on a thin blanket against the cold concrete floor. Bruno had been there for over a year. At first he had tried, standing up when visitors approached, wagging his tail, looking at them with hopeful brown eyes, but he had learned. They never chose him. So he stopped trying. Now he didn't even lift his head when the door swung open, when new footsteps echoed through the shelter. He had been ignored for so long that he simply accepted it, until one ordinary day. That morning the door opened like it always did. People came in, the younger dogs barked, tails wagging, paws scraping against metal fences, pleading for attention. Bruno remained motionless in his corner, eyes half closed. Except something was different. A woman stood near his kennel, her gaze locked on him. She wasn't looking at the puppies. She wasn't pointing at the young, excitable dogs. She was looking at him. Bruno hesitated, his frail body stiff. Nobody ever stopped for him. Elena Foster, 44 years old, had only come to the shelter to look. She wasn't planning to adopt. But as she crouched down in front of the rusty bars, she felt something in her chest tighten. The dog before her was more than just old. He was defeated. His once thick fur was patchy and dull, his frame too thin, his brown eyes clouded with quiet resignation. He didn't beg for attention. He didn't move at all. A shelter worker approached. "Are you interested in one of the younger ones?" she asked kindly. "We have some great German Shepherd mixes in the next row." Elena shook her head, her gaze never leaving Bruno. "Tell me about this one." The worker hesitated. "Oh, Bruno. He's been here for over a year now." Elena swallowed hard. "A year? Has anyone ever shown interest?" The worker sighed. "Number people want puppies, younger dogs. They take one look at him and walk away." Elena pressed her lips together, then slowly extended her hand through the kennel bars. Bruno didn't move. She waited. Bruno had seen hands reach toward him before, hands that patted the younger dogs, hands that lingered at his kennel for a second before pulling away. But this one stayed. He hesitated, then shifted slightly, just enough to sniff her fingertips. It was the smallest movement, but it changed everything. Elena felt it, the last fragile piece of hope still inside him, and she wasn't going to let it die. The shelter worker watched quietly. "Bruno doesn't react to most people," she admitted. "He spends most of the day sleeping. He hardly eats." Elena glanced at the untouched food bowl in the kennel. Her chest tightened. He wasn't just forgotten. He was fading away. She exhaled. Why was he surrendered? The worker hesitated before answering. His owner passed away. The family didn't want him. They brought him here and never came back. Elena felt her throat tighten. Bruno had lost everything. His home, his person, his purpose. And now he was just waiting for nothing. The worker sighed. "We've tried. We've posted about him online, put his story on flyers, even reduced his adoption fee. But people want younger dogs, active dogs. Bruno," she trailed off, shaking her head. "No one wants a senior dog." Elena clenched her jaw. "Then I guess I'm no one." She turned to the shelter worker and said 5 words that changed everything. "I want to meet him." The shelter worker blinked in surprise. "You want to meet him?" she asked as if she hadn't heard correctly. Elena nodded, her voice steady. "Yes." The worker hesitated before sighing and rubbing the back of her neck. "I have to be honest with you. Bruno doesn't do well outside his kennel." Elena frowned. "What do you mean?" The worker motioned toward the gate. "Come with me. You'll see." Bruno hadn't left his kennel in weeks. Even when the staff tried to walk him, he would take a few hesitant steps before stopping completely. Unlike the other dogs who pulled eagerly at their leashes, excited for fresh air and freedom, Bruno only stood still, waiting to be taken back inside. The worker carefully unlatched the kennel door and stepped inside. Bruno didn't move. His deep brown eyes flickered toward Elena, as if asking, "Are you still here?" Elena crouched down. her voice soft. Come on, buddy. Let's go outside for a little bit. Nothing. The worker sighed. This is what I meant. He doesn't trust it. He spent so long inside this kennel, he doesn't know what to do anymore. Elena swallowed against the lump in her throat. This wasn't just a dog that needed a home. This was a dog that had forgotten how to live. She wasn't just going to have to rescue him. She was going to have to bring him back to life. The worker gently slipped a leash over Bruno's thin neck. His frail body tensed. Elena held her breath. Then slowly, he stood up. Not eagerly, not with energy, but carefully, one stiff movement at a time. His thin legs trembled, his ribs visible beneath his dull fur. Elena's heart ached at the sight. He was so much weaker than she realized. Still, she didn't say a word. She just held the leash gently, giving him time. Bruno took one step, then another, and then he stopped. He wouldn't move any further. The worker sighed. This is what I meant. He doesn't believe there's a reason to go anywhere anymore. Elena knelt beside him again. Bruno looked up at her, and for the first time, she saw something different in his eyes. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was a question. He was wondering, can I trust you? Elena reached out, gently stroking his head. She whispered two words that would change everything. Let's go. And this time, Bruno took another step forward. Bruno's legs trembled as he stepped into the shelter's outdoor area. A simple, fenced-in yard with patches of dry grass and a few scattered chew toys. To most dogs, it was freedom. To Bruno, it was the unknown. He hesitated at the threshold, his frail body stiff. The fresh air ruffled his dull fur. His ears twitched at the distant barking of other dogs. But he didn't move. Elena knelt beside him, holding the leash loosely. It's okay, Bruno, she said softly. We can take it slow. Bruno lowered his head, scanning the ground. His tail remained tucked, his posture hesitant. But he was outside. For the first time in months, maybe longer, he had left the kennel. Elena didn't rush him. She didn't pull on the leash. She just waited. Bruno took a single step, then another. His movements were slow, uncertain, his legs weak, his breathing heavy from the small effort. But he was trying. Elena watched as, ever so slightly, he lifted his nose, sniffing the air. Something inside her tightened. That small movement, just a breath of fresh air, was proof. Bruno wanted to believe. Maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't done with him yet. The shelter worker leaned against the fence, watching in quiet disbelief. I've never seen him like this, she admitted. He usually just stands by the door, waiting to go back inside. Elena glanced at Bruno, her fingers tightening around the leash. Maybe he's just been waiting for the right person? The worker exhaled. Are you sure you want to do this? Taking in a senior dog it's not easy. Elena looked at Bruno, his graying muzzle, his thin frame, the way his deep brown eyes looked at her now, not with expectation, not even with hope, but with something quieter, trust. He had lost everything, his home, his person, his purpose. But she wasn't going to let him lose his last chance. Elena turned to the worker, her voice steady. I'm sure. The worker nodded, a small smile appearing. Then let's do the paperwork. Elena exhaled, turning back to Bruno. She crouched down, meeting his tired eyes. What do you say, big guy? Bruno blinked slowly. His frail body remained still, his expression unreadable. Then, for the first time, he wagged his tail. It was weak, barely a movement, but it was enough. Bruno had never ridden in a car before, not that he could remember. Elena had to lift him gently into the back seat. His frail body was too weak to jump, but he didn't resist. He simply let himself be carried, his deep brown eyes watching her, still unsure, still trying to understand. She settled him onto a soft blanket and shut the door. For the first time in a long time, Bruno wasn't in a kennel. He wasn't behind bars. He wasn't in the cold, empty shelter. He was in a car, going somewhere, going home. The drive was quiet. Bruno lay curled in the back seat, his breathing slow and steady. Elena kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror. He looked so small for such a big dog, so tired. Every bump in the road made him shift slightly, adjusting on the blanket. But he didn't panic. He didn't whine. He simply accepted it, like a dog who had given up on fighting. Elena's hands tightened on the wheel. She didn't know what kind of life Bruno had before the shelter. She didn't know what he had been through. But she knew one thing for sure. He was never going back. When they arrived, Elena parked the car and opened the door. She crouched beside him, her voice soft. "Come on, buddy, let's go inside." Bruno lifted his head slightly, blinking at his new surroundings. A small, cozy house, a fenced yard, quiet, peaceful. Elena gently reached for his leash, giving it a soft tug. But Bruno hesitated. He had stepped out of his kennel. He had stepped out of the shelter. But this was a home. And for a dog who had lost one before, that was terrifying. His deep brown eyes searched Elena's face, as if waiting for reassurance. She smiled softly. "You're safe now, Bruno." Bruno let out a small breath. Then finally he took a step forward. Bruno's paws touched the soft wooden floor of the house. He paused in the doorway, his deep brown eyes scanning the space. No cold concrete, no metal bars, no distant echoes of barking dogs. Just quiet, just warmth. Elena let go of his leash, stepping back to give him space. "Go ahead, big guy. This is yours now." Bruno's ears flicked slightly at her voice. He took another step forward, then another. His frail legs trembled. His thin frame shifted unsteadily as he slowly explored. A soft dog bed lay near the fireplace, waiting for him. A fresh water bowl sat beside it. Everything was his. For the first time in a long time, he had a place of his own. Elena watched him carefully, giving him time. She knew better than to rush him. This wasn't just a house for him. This was trust, and trust takes time. Bruno sniffed the air. His tail remained low, uncertain. But then he did something unexpected. Instead of curling up on the dog bed, instead of lying down in the warmest spot, he walked to Elena. Slow, hesitant. And then, with the last bit of trust he had left in him, he rested his head against her leg. Elena's breath hitched. She reached down, gently running her fingers through his dull fur. "You're safe now, Bruno." Bruno let out a deep, heavy sigh. His tail, weak but finally free of fear, gave a single, slow wag. And in that moment, Elena knew. He understood. He was home. The lesson from Bruno's story. Bruno was just another forgotten dog, a senior, overlooked, ignored, left behind by the world, left behind by hope. But sometimes all it takes is one person to change everything, one person to see the invisible, one person to say, "You still matter." Elena didn't just rescue Bruno. She gave him back his dignity, his trust, his life. And in return, Bruno gave her something even greater, a love that had been waiting just for her. Bruno wasn't broken. He was just waiting for someone to believe in him, and now he's home forever. A call to action. How many other dogs like Bruno are still waiting? Dogs who have lost hope. Dogs who just need one person to see them. If this story touched your heart, consider visiting your local shelter. There's a Bruno waiting for someone like you. Subscribe for more stories like this. And if you believe every dog deserves a second chance, leave a like and share this story.